everybody, it's Emily from Life So Savory. I need to check it looks green on my screen, so I need to see if it also looks green on yours. I have no idea what's going on. This is a new fun thing that I'm seeing. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and check. I'd love for you to say hi. Let me know if the color looks off on this. It is off. It's so weird. What is going on? So if I switch it back to reversed, then it's fine. Yeah, that is so weird. But now I'm backwards. I don't know, what's better, being backwards or being green? That is the most bizarre thing ever. So I guess I'm gonna be backwards. I'll try it in a few minutes. I'll try to flip it again, but it's just so weird. Okay, hi everybody. It's Emily from Life So Savory. I was just trying to work out. I had like a weird color thing going on my screen. So I will tell you that in order to have it me not be green, I'm backwards. So, and I can tell because my shirt is backwards. So it might look a little bit weird when I'm sewing today, but otherwise, you know, everything will be fine. I'll try to flip it back in a minute and just see what's going on. Okay, let's see. I am sharing this and then we're gonna get started. Okie doke. So weird. I'm so glad that those of you who are here, you guys are joining me. And today, if you saw the caption, you know, but today I'm going to be sewing up a pair of my boys' sports shorts. We're going to be using mesh, and it's going to be fun. And it's going to be practical because my son needs another pair of shorts, so that's always good. Let's see. Okay, one more thing here, and then we're ready to go. Let's see. All right, so those of you that were here at the very beginning, my camera did something that it's never done before, and that was it turned me green and everything around me green. So, and that happened when I went to switch and reverse the camera, because as you can tell and see on my shirt, I am backwards at the moment. So I'm gonna try one more time to reverse the camera so that I'm not backwards, and I do this every week, so I don't know why it's being weird today. But if it doesn't work, then I'm just gonna give up and we're gonna move on and we're gonna start sewing, okay? So let's see here. So I'm gonna hit the buttons. So weird. What is going on? I don't know. Okay, so I'm gonna be backwards today. This is fun, and I'll have all sorts of comments like I normally do. Is that a left-handed sewing machine? And you know, people get really confused when all of a sudden I'm sewing backwards, and but I'm not really sewing backwards. So everything is normal. My sewing machine is normal. It looks just like yours, but today it may look backwards because this is a mirror image, and if I unmirror it, I turn green. So very weird. This is not something that I've experienced before. So there isn't a filter. Normally I just hit the flip button and I stay as is, and the filters are separate. And as you can see, I definitely don't have a filter on at the moment. So anyway, we'll just go with it and see what happens. So today we're sewing my almost 12-year-old son a pair of mesh sports shorts. This is a free sewing pattern. You can download it using the link in the description of this video. It's a super easy pattern to sew. It's so comfortable to wear, and my boys literally live in these shorts all summer long. So summer has started early for us because with doing school at home these last few weeks, I'm letting my kids just wear whatever. And normally I'm one of those moms who makes my kids wear nice clothes to school. It's just, the school before we came here wore uniforms, and so I just don't let them wear their sports clothes to school. But now they're able to. So I feel like we are getting more wear out of our summer play clothes than ever before, because with school at home, yeah, they don't have to dress up. They do have to change out of pajamas though. I'm still a stickler about that. We don't do school in pajamas around here. So anyway, that's what we're doing. Let me show you what I've already pre-cut, and then we'll get started sewing. Okay, so on my cutting table, I have elastic pre-measured to my son. I have the 2 fronts to the shorts. I have 2 backs to the shorts. And I am going to lengthen these just slightly, and I'm going to do that just by adding a cuff to the bottom. Okay, so we have this cool gray mesh and I have this maroon mesh. They look nice together. So we're going to put a stripe on the bottom of the shorts, and that will also lengthen a little bit and having me avoid having to hem. So I've cut 2 strips 3 inches wide, and I'll cut them to length later. And then my son was asking for pockets. The pattern does not include pockets, but I just drew up this little pocket template. Just kind of sketched this out. And I have cut 4 pockets also out of the gray mesh, and that's what we're going to be making out of pockets. So this is, I've got a number of different mesh fabrics, but this one is a very small closed hole mesh, and this one doesn't really have any holes at all. Okay, but you can see actually it's slightly see-through because you can see my shirt through the back, but it's fine when it's on. All right, so that's what we're doing, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. So we'll just swing right over here. I know, sewing in your PJs. And actually, I got nothing against PJs, but my kids want to wear their PJs all day, and then they want to wear them to sleep again, and that weirds me out. So if they had enough to change every day, but we don't own that many PJs, so we get dressed. Okay, so let's see. We are going to get started by sewing the fronts to each other and the backs to each other. Try to move this so you guys can see. So I'll take the 2 back pieces, and I'm going to sew this curved back seam with right sides together. A 3/8 seam allowance is included on the pattern. My looper's being a little weird, but the needle looks fine. Can't see because I've got white thread on my machine. Okay, so those were the 2 backs. Now we'll do the same for the 2 fronts. So that front curved seam. Weird, Nancy. So maybe Facebook is having, like, I don't know. You know how they just have issues? Hopefully it's just one of those things, and next time it won't happen. I'm assuming it's kind of a one-off. So weird, though. Okay, so we're going to measure or place the seam allowance. So when I'm sewing, Jane, there are different marks on the serger or on your sewing machine that are guidelines. And so if you line the fabric up with that guideline, then when you sew through, then your seam allowance will be right on what it was supposed to do. So this is 3/8 seam allowance included, so you sew on the 3/8 inch guideline, line your fabric up on there, and then in the end, that's where your stitch ends up. So it cuts off a little bit and leaves that. I know I'm backwards. Phyllis, you've been watching, or Patricia, you've been watching for a long time. So I used to have a phone or a camera that I couldn't reverse myself, and I was always backwards. And then I got a different phone, and yep, still green. I just had to test it. So now I cannot be backwards, but today I'm backwards. So these are normal sewing machines. They look backwards, but they're really not. Don't be deceived. All right, so we're gonna sew the pockets onto the sides before we sew up the side seams. And so I'm going to first figure out where I need to place my pockets, okay? So let's bring this down just a little bit. All right, so I know that I'm going to be folding this elastic over for the waistband. It's just a fold over waistband. And so then that's where that's gonna be. So then I will be able to place my pocket, say another inch down from there. That's where I'll do my pocket placement. All right, so we have our waistband, and then we'll have an inch, and then I will place my pocket, okay? So I'm putting the right sides of the mesh together, and then I'm pinning my pocket in place, and we'll use this one that we pinned as a guide for all the others. So now I will take, you need to find the opposite pocket so you can keep the right sides together. But I'm gonna fold this over so that I can see where I put this pocket, and so then they'll be even. And then we'll do the same thing on the back. Okay, so we'll take our backs, and this is like how you would do it if the pattern doesn't include instructions for putting in an inseam pocket. You know, if it's part of the pattern, then of course you're gonna have like marks and guides, and you just follow those. But if you are adding pockets, like I'm adding pockets to these simple shorts, that's not part of the pattern, then here's how you can just add pockets to what you're working on. Okay, so lining up the top of the side lines, and I'm working on the front side of both my front and backs. Okay, and then I will do the same thing here. Find, match up the pockets, and this will be so that we can sew the side seams and sew the pockets in at the same time. So sewing like this allows us to be able to do that. The pocket placement will line up on all of them. Okay? All right, so difference while I'm sewing these, while I'm sewing in the pockets on the side seams, the difference in my sewing machine. So the first one I used is a serger or overlocker. It depends on where you are in the world. The machine is the same, just the name is different. And that one cuts the excess seam allowance and does a finished bound edge, which means the edge is covered in thread and it won't fray anymore. This is just your sort of standard sewing machine. This one is a little bit fancier in the fact that it actually does convert into a embroidery machine. So it's not just sewing, it also can do machine embroidery. All right, so there we've sewn on one pocket. Yay. Susan, you haven't missed too much. Okay, so I'm going to do that on all 4 of those pocket sides. Okay, I'm just sewing with my seam allowance to attach the pocket to the side of the shorts. So we have the serger, we have the sewing machine, and then the third machine, which I will demonstrate its use, I think, although I'm not hemming, but maybe we'll sew the waistband with it, is a cover stitch, which that is good for hems. So it provides a stretchy, finished double or triple thread and needle stitch. And if you want a good example of what it does, just look at any store-bought t-shirt. That hem on the sleeve or on the bottom was done on a cover stitch machine, very similar to that. And you can see how it has multiple needles and then a looper on the back, which finishes the raw edges of the fabric and provides a stretchy stitch. So both the serger and the overlocker are great for, the serger and the cover stitch are great if you sew a lot of knit fabrics and need stretch stitches. It just makes it quite a bit easier. You can sew, of course, stretch fabric on your sewing machine, but you just have to be more careful. So, Mary, yes, and anyone else watching, I am backwards because when I try to reverse my camera like I normally do, I turn green. So I can give you all a little preview. Ta-da! I'm not backwards, but I'm green. And I don't know why. That's never happened to me before. So we're just being backwards today. So sorry for those of you guys who are. And then I love my clips. Love my clips. Can't say enough about them. I use them so much more now that I've discovered them. Okay, so here we have, this is the back, and it has 2 little wings on it, on either side, because I have my pocket pouch, one side of it attached to either side. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sew the back and front together, lining up the tops of the side seams. And then we're going to also, I'm going to sew down and I'm just going to stitch down the side seam, around the pocket, and down the rest of the pants. But now that I'm thinking about it, I want to top stitch my pockets before I do that just because it's a lot easier. So what I'm going to do is with it open, right side, looking at the right side of the fabric, I'm just going to do a top stitch right down this pocket, and that will just give our pockets a little bit more of a finished look. Actually, should I top stitch it all the way back? Maybe I should. I'll just do it all the way back. And because this is how it's going to be. It's going to be all the way on the inside. So I think that's how I want to stitch it. I'm just trying to think what's the best. I do my pockets pretty much different every time. I'm always trying new things. So let's try, we're going to top stitch this pocket. We'll see how it looks. It's definitely going to be easier to top stitch it now before we sew it all together. But I'm not sure how that will make the rest of the sewing, but we'll see. It will definitely make a nice finished edge on our pocket. All right, Lisa, I'll have to look that up. It's just weird because, like right now, I'm normal color. So I feel like it's not the camera, it's something to do with the software or Facebook that is allowing me to reverse it. I don't know. Of course, I'm open to trying any suggestions, especially if the problem persists. I don't like being backwards, and I don't feel like on a how-to sort of demonstration show like this that being backwards is good, because you guys are all confused. Like, wait a second, why is she sewing with her left hand? And is her machine... I used to get the question, oh, you have left-handed machine. I'd love a left-handed machine. And I'd have to say, it's not a left-handed machine, it's just that I am reversed. because like Patricia said, I used to always be reversed. I didn't have the capabilities to reverse myself. So for the last several years, I have been reversing myself. Your comments are green. So I'm thinking that, yeah, there's something up with Facebook today, because that's what I'm streaming through. So my guess is it will resolve itself by the next time I'm live. These Facebook glitches don't last very long, but they certainly do cause annoyance when you're trying to figure something out. Okay, so now we took a little detour to top stitch our pockets, okay? And let's do this again. Okay, so we're going to pin or clip the sides and around the pocket. And I'm going to do this whole thing on my serger, and then if there's a couple certain spots that I couldn't get the angle or I couldn't pivot, then I will come back and stitch. Sometimes the corners here, I need to come back and stitch on my sewing machine, just because I wasn't able to quite get in there. Okay, so now we have this side clipped, and we're going to we're going to start sewing at the top, and sew all the way down and around the pocket. I know, I think a left-handed sewing machine might be a hot ticket. I personally don't need one, as I'm right-handed, but right now it looks like I'm left-handed. Okay, so we're going around the pocket. Come back up, and then we're going to go back down the side of the shorts. Okay, and in these corners here is where I like to, the bottom of the pocket is folded over. I'm not. Okay, thanks Patricia. Okay, so these corners right here is where I like to go back and just stitch on my machine, because sometimes I wasn't able to make, quite make that angle with the serger. It's not as exact as a sewing machine. You can't pivot. So I do find that it, is a little tricky. So now I'm going to pin or clip the second side. Of my shorts, and we'll sew down just like we did the other one. Okay, so we're going to zip around and come down, just like we did on the other side. And then pretty soon these are going to start to look like shorts. Again, the original pattern does not include these pockets. I am adding these pockets at my son's request. But everyone likes pockets. Pockets make everything better. If you sew this without the pockets, it's so quick and easy. And it's still not bad with the pockets, but it gives me a few more minutes here. All right, so let's turn it right side out and see what we've got going. All right, so there are inseam pockets. Don't they look awesome? Super nice. Okay, so I think the top stitching gave those a really nice look. You can see how it just looks kind of finished, and it was a lot easier to top stitch before I sewed the side seams than it was to do that. Why does your granddaughter not want them, Mary? That's funny. Yes, this is mesh. So without holes, really, just sort of a solid, but it's pretty thin mesh. And that pocket looks good too. I've got some threads to clip, but it's coming along nicely. Okay, so back inside out, I am going to just do those pocket tops and bottoms on the machine real quick. But while I'm over here with the serger, I'm going to sew the inseam, which is the inner seam. Oh, she won't take them off. Oh, good. I was like, she won't take them. What? I didn't see all of it. Yay! I love hearing that. My daughter's the same. She really loves them as well. All right, so now we have a pretty nice looking pair of shorts. What's on my brain? Socks? That's weird. All right, let me just top stitch or stitch real quick these corners of the pockets. I don't want holes opening there, and so just in case I didn't fully catch the fabric, especially under the pocket, that's a pretty sharp angle for the serger to be able to catch. The bottom or the top of the pocket is not so bad, but I am still going to stitch it. Make sure I'm back stitching. So we'll do it on both pockets, and then we can talk about finishing both the top with elastic and the bottom. You can hem these if you want, but I'm actually making my son the same size as last summer because they still fit really good in the waist, but he's a little bit taller. So I'm going to add a little bit of length by adding a band on the bottom of these. All right, so we've got nice looking side seam pockets. Hopefully the placement is good. And again, this is a free pattern, so you can download this off my website, and the pattern link is in the description of this video, and you can go ahead and get all the details for it there. Okay, so let's put in the waistband. We're going to take our elastic, which is pre-cut to the right size. I'm going to sew it into a circle on my sewing machine. Okay, and then I'm going to find the back of the shorts, which has a higher rise. So you can tell that the back just has a little bit higher rise, and we're going to pin it right, or clip it right to the top of the shorts. Okay, so we'll find the other half. Now this is the same method I used to put the elastic into the leggings, but because these are baggier fit, I mean these are loose, comfortable, like sports shorts, so they definitely are looser. We are going to have to stretch our elastic to sew it, even though we're using the same sewing method. Patricia, yes, as I was sewing up that inseam, I was thinking, shoot, I should have sewed the bands on. So, yes, I will have to sew them into a circle now, but we will still sew them on. So I generally do like to do my bands when it's still open and flat, but we can do them the other way. They just take a little bit more finessing. All right, so now we're going to sew the elastic directly to the top of the shorts. And we want to make sure that when we're using the serger that we're not cutting the elastic with the blade. And I'm going to use both hands because I need to pull the fabric so that it's the same as the elastic. Okay, the elastic is quite a bit smaller on these shorts than the actual fabric. So, and I like to put my hand in the back and the front, so I'm not putting tension on my needles. I'm putting the tension on my hand and using my strength to help put it on. What was the other thing I was going to say? I don't remember. So that's what we're doing. Oh, if you don't have a serger, just do this with a zigzag stitch on your regular sewing machine. That's what I was going to mention. Totally fine. Totally fine. All right, so here is the elastic on the top of the shorts, and I'm going to fold it over and clip it, but we're not going to sew it just yet because I'm going to put the band on, and then we'll go over the cover stitch and do the finishing on both the top and the bottom, and then I only have to go over there once. Okay, so we'll just put some clips on here in a few places. You want to make sure your fabric is pulled over pretty tight so that when we're finished with this, we don't have any sort of baggy. See how this fabric is baggy, but if I pull it and adjust it, then it tightens up. So we don't want really weird bunches. We want a nice flat waistband. Okay, so now we have our waistband folded over. You can still see our side pockets. Barbara, the serger class is not really on my Facebook page, I don't think, but if you go to lifesewsavory.com, S-E-W, savory.com, right on the menu bar it says courses, and then all the information is there. So you can find that information there and go through and take it. It also has a gift certificate option, so if you want to gift the serger class to someone that you know who is getting a serger, that's a great option as well. So Jane, I do have a double cover stitch, but right now it's only set up to do the single cover stitch option. I took all the pieces off for the double cover stitch because it was getting in my way when I was sewing something. So I will unfortunately not be demonstrating that today, but that would look really cute for top stitching on these sports shorts, of course. Another way that I've seen people who don't have a double cover stitch but want the look of it is to sew on the wrong side of the fabric, and then your looper is on the top. So that's kind of fun too. Fake it till you make it. But then it does look like you have a double cover stitch even though you don't. All right, so I just cut this to the same as the bottom of my shorts. I'm going to cut 2 of these so I don't have to measure it again. Let's see, that one's too short. And we'll sew these bands on, and then we'll go over and we'll top stitch around where the bands connect to the shorts. We'll top stitch the elastic down, and then we'll call my son, who's just thrilled that he has to model today, down to show what these look like on. Because I think the real wow factor is that when you see in such a short amount of time, you're able to make something actually wearable and see it on someone. I just think that's great. So I actually want to show it on someone because I think that makes it even more, a bigger wow factor. All right, so for the bands on the bottom of the legs, I cut these 3 inches wide. We're going to put the seam that I just sewed to make it into a circle on the inseam instead of, we're not going to do it on the side seam. We'll do it on the inseam. You have 3 layers of fabric. You should have 2 layers of the band, 1 layer of shorts. You can make your band however thick you want, and if you think it will make your shorts too long, you can go ahead and shorten your shorts. These are, you know, sort of a longer basketball style short, and they're supposed to hit just above the knee. And so this will make sure that they hit there, if not a little bit lower, and give my son some room to grow. Okay, so there's that pinned around the bottom. And we'll do the same on the other one. So that seam where I sewed it together, place that on the inseam, and then I'm just sort of working my way around, lining up the 3 layers of fabric. You obviously, if you have never used this pattern before, once you get to this point, before you hem it, if you're not putting the band, then you would just hem the bottom. It would also be a good time to try on the shorts and make sure that they are a good length, and you could either add a band or hem it depending on you know, how long they need to be for the child that you are sewing for. Okay, so there we go. Now we're going to sew these on, and then we will top stitch on the cover stitch. I put maroon thread on in hopes that it will be good for us today and we can do some sewing on it. You want to make sure you're catching all 3 layers of fabric, 2 of my little band and 1 of the shorts. And you shouldn't have to pull any of the fabric because it should, you know, fit. All right, so we've got a nice band on the bottom. Just to add a little bit of color so they didn't look totally maroon. If you click through and check out the post where I wrote about this pattern, you'll see that I've included options for a side stripe, for fun side cutouts. So there's lots of ways that you can use this basic pattern and mix up how they look. And my kids have variations of all of those in their wardrobe. But with 2 boys 2 years apart, when a pair of shorts gets passed down, then we need more. So that's what happened this summer. A couple shorts that were a couple years old got passed down to little brother, and big brother needed more. So cute. That's kind of fun on the bottom. It'll look even better when I'm top stitched. When I top stitch it, it might have even looked a little better should I have cut up here and made them wider. I don't know. It'll be fine, but they might have looked better if they were a little bit wider on the cuff. Okay, so I have the 2 wide needles set up to sew, and I'm first going to top stitch around the bottom of my bands. I'm going to flip the seam allowance up to the main maroon color, and then that's where I'm going to stitch, is on the maroon. I have maroon thread, so you actually won't really see it. But it will hold everything in place and give a nice finished look, even if you can't directly see it. And like mentioned before, this would be a great place if you do have a double cover stitch that's set up. You can see mine. I took those pieces are currently not on here, but it would be a great place to have that double looper look, as this is sportswear and that's a very sporty look. But top stitching like this just gives anything, even if it's play closed, such a nice finished look that it's great to take the extra time to do it. At least I think so. And I almost always do. Every once in a while, I'll skip top stitching or something, and I almost always wish that I hadn't, because it just looks better with it. Okay, let's show you what we've got here. All right, so see how that's top stitched? That's gonna make it nice, and then there's the looper on the back. And you can see from one leg to the other, the one that is top stitched, this one just lays so much nicer than this one. And you can top stitch with your cover stitch, or you can just top stitch with your regular sewing machine. It's not a big deal. Charlotte, I am not one to talk about foot pedal organization because mine are a mess. Currently under this table I have 3 machines and 3 foot pedals, and they're always mixed up and never where I want them to be. So I don't have the secret. If there is one, I don't have it. I've seen like little pads that people either make or buy that the foot pedal goes on, and I think that can help it not slide around. I don't know, I don't have a lot of trouble with it sliding while I'm sewing it, but it's just, mine's just kind of a big mess, so I feel like they slide around when I'm using one and the other ones are moved out of place. And you can of course change the color of your looper. Like you saw, I have pretty bright white on mine, but you're not seeing it because it's inside the shorts, so I'm not too concerned about that. Okay, so now we have two top stitched bottoms. They look nice. Who said they were going to make some? Shanna, yes, they look great. You should make these, and you can of course, you know, like I am, add some variations, which is really makes it fun too. Okay, so now we're going to top stitch the waistband. I'm going to sew on the outside of the fabric like this, using my finger to kind of feel where that elastic ends, and sew right on that spot. Now, just like when I sewed the elastic on the first time, I'm going to have to stretch my fabric because there is more fabric than there is elastic, and I don't want these bumps. Okay, so we're going to have to pull this while we're sewing to end up with a nice smooth look. Okay, so I realize my arm might kind of be in the way, but I'll try to keep it out of the way for you. But it just, I get the best results when I sew with this setup here. Yes, a cover stitch is a stretch stitch by nature because the looper, oh, I lost the thread. All right, we're going back. Because the looper is, you know, back and forth, then it does provide a stretchy stitch. So it's great for knits, but you can also use it on non-knits too. Wasn't it so beautiful how nice it did around those legs? And now, of course, it's going to give me some trouble, but we'll see. Okay. So when you go back to start over, I like to overlap a couple of inches from where I broke the thread, and that will just help those stitches, because you can't back stitch on a cover stitch. overlapping your stitches is the way that you really bind them together. And so you don't, and sometimes I do tie off my loose threads as well, but it's just the way how you keep it from, yeah, coming undone later. But I think these are gonna look really great. I personally like when you have two fabrics and you have either the side stripe or the side cut out, but I asked my son and he said, no, all I want is pockets, so I guess I'll give him what he wants. Even if I wish it was a little more exciting. Okay, so now we will take a look. We made it back around without breaking any more threads. Success, and you got to pull your fabric out of the way before you chain off. And then so when I chain off, sometimes that's why I pull those threads out with the pin, is it gives me loops to pull them to the back. And then sometimes I will just take those loops like I'm doing right now and tie it off, and then I'm kind of double assuring myself that they won't come undone. What was the question? How do I, yes, he's going to model. How do I keep the thing straight? I think some of that is just practice, and with time you get where you're just kind of, I don't know, sewing more straight. It's not something I consciously think about. Is that weird? I would consciously think about sewing it straight. I just do. So I do think that's sort of a practice thing. Jack? Jack? Okay, so let me show you while he's coming out. Let me show you. Here's the shorts. They're looking great. We have the pocket. And I'm going to throw these up to him and have him put them on for you. And then I do need to sew a tag on the back for us. So I've marked right now. Okay, here's the back. Where that is, the clip, you can take it off after you put them on. Anyway, so we'll get a modeled shot of the final. It's been a while since he's modeled for us. And but these are really fun. Okay, so let's see. Come stand over here. And you can see okay, you can turn around. Okay, so there we go. We have nice long shorts. Put your hands in the pocket, buddy. There we go. Pockets. Is that what you wanted? The pockets. Those are good. And they are plenty long, but that's what we wanted. So cut the threads. All right, so give them back to me and I'll put a tag on the back. And there you go. So anyway, I would say these are the biggest size of this shorts pattern, and he has probably maxed it out. So this is probably the last. Either I need to enlarge the pattern or this is the end of the mesh shorts for Jack. So, but it's a 10-12 is the biggest size, and he's almost 12. He'll be 12 at the end of the summer. So it kind of makes sense. So anyway, there you go. There's an easy mesh shorts pattern, and I actually have a long mesh pants pattern, sort of athletic pants pattern. It's not great. It was one I did a long time ago. So if you search it, you'll find it on my site, but I do plan to redo it, hopefully for fall, and have sort of a long pant version of this same thing. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this and that this was inspiring to you to sew some fun summer shorts. You can find mesh like on fabric.com or other places, and it's not expensive fabric, and it's 60 wide, so you can really sew a lot with it. So it's a great thing, and if it does have holes in it, because I have some that does, I usually just put a lining fabric in it, and that information is included Excuse me. That's what I get for talking and not drinking. That information is included in the pattern. So click through to the pattern, check out, download the free pattern, check out all the tips and tricks that I put in there that I probably forgot to say as I was going through it today. And you can get all the information there. Again, the link is in the description of this video, so check it out there. Get all the information you need, download the free pattern, and get sewing. So I will be back on the Brother Sews Facebook page with Angela Wolf on Monday, and I think we're gonna do some fun vinyl project with the Scan and Cut, but of course you could use any electronic craft cutter that you have. So thank you for joining me. I'll see you Monday, and I hope you have a great weekend. Bye.